Welcome back to Roadmap, Autotrader UK's product and technology podcast. I'm Callum, one of the product leads here at Autotrader, and today we have three of our wonderful in-house lawyers here to dig into their in-house legal roles working at a tech company. So hi, Mark, Megan and Michelle. Triple
Hello.
M's, we just discussed that there might be some kind of recruitment policy there in the legal team. So just to start us off, could you please give us a bit of an intro into kind of your roles, backgrounds, and then how you ended up here at Autotrader working in the legal team?
Mine might take a little bit longer to get to because it's a bit more varied. How do you two want to start? I can go first if you want. It's up to you. But I'm the elder statesman, so I'm slightly more qualified, experienced. These are things that I tell people, but basically these two do the hard work. I qualified in 2004, which is 21 years ago, which is terrifying. I qualified at a law firm in London, and then I wanted to follow a career in media. Ended up at a computer games company, then sport, then TV, and then this was my sort of first role at any company where I've worked on my own. So when we all arrived at Autotrader, we're the first three lawyers, aren't we, that's worked for Autotrader. It was just me, then it was Michelle, then it was Megan. Yeah. So that's how we started off.
Who were yourselves?
I think I had a slightly different route to the others in that I didn't do a law degree.
Right.
I did a history degree and then almost went sort of down an academic history route.
Oh, cool.
And then changed and did a law conversion. And then came to Manchester to do a training contract in a commercial firm. Manchester, I stayed there for 10 years and then came over to Autotrader to join Mark.
Well, mine's going to sound a bit more boring and standard now, but I did a law degree. I worked for kind of many years in private practice in a law firm, first in Liverpool and then in Manchester. I've been qualified for getting on to 17 years, and Autotrader was my first kind of proper, apart from secondments, proper in-house role, and that was about kind of 4 years ago, which has completely kind of flown. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I was doing some digging before the podcast around like the percentage of lawyers that worked in-house versus private practice. And it's about a quarter. Well, that's what Google said, or Gemini AI. Whether we trust that or not, I don't know. But around a quarter of lawyers work in-house. So it'd be good to understand what drew yourselves to moving from like having that private practice experience to moving into working in-house and then obviously working at Autotrader.
Probably everyone's got their own motivations. For me, private practice has its upsides. You're surrounded by lawyers, lots of people you can compare notes with. There's lots of support. You are the business's law, so you sort of you're a revenue generator there. For me, I was never hugely comfortable there. For me, you're moving around between different matters, never quite taking ownership of them. Even if you're working heavily in a project, you might not always see it through. It'd be up to the client as to how you're involved. You'd never see what happens to the fruits of your labour. In-house, there's a lot more ownership around it. You feel like you're adding more value. I think we all class ourselves as sort of more business advisors, don't we? You can't really do our job without knowing how the industry and how Autotrader works. I suppose for me, one of the downsides, and it doesn't apply to Autotrader, I know which side my bread's buttered on, the downsides of working in-house is that it can sometimes lack variety. Yeah. And I think we all agree that Autotrader's that's not a problem here. But we just strive to try and understand what's going on 90% of the time. But it's it's a very fast moving environment. But certainly for me, it was around ownership, taking more responsibility, and also moving away from charging in 6-minute units, which is
I remember
one of the worst parts of the job.
My consulting times.
Yeah, surely no one misses that.
No one misses that. No
one misses timesheets. No. What about yourselves? Was there any other reasons than that? Was it similar kind of motivations?
Yeah, similar. I'd worked in-house. So after I did my law conversion, I worked in-house for a bit as paralegal at Northern Rock in Newcastle, and I really liked being part of the business, as you say, and being involved with things from the start to the end. So I think I always had it in mind that I might move in-house. It took me a little while to get to it. Yeah. But yeah, definitely there's similar. Being involved, being part of the team, being part of the journey is really appealing.
Yeah, and by trade, I think it's fair to say we're all kind of commercial IP lawyers, and that typically lends itself quite well to in-house roles, because a lot of companies kind of need that contract support, advice on brands. And I guess we have that by doing kind of commercial contracts. We kind of have that business commercial acumen, for want of a better word. So it's the move in-house is probably, there's more roles available for commercial lawyers, and it's probably just a bit more attractive in that respect. And I guess I'd probably echo what everyone else said in terms of moving across. I mean, I loved my time in private practice, and I would, I'd say to kind of young lawyers that you can't go wrong really having a good grounding, a good training in private practice, because you are generally surrounded by really brilliant, lawyers who really know their craft, and you can work through and really learn your craft there. But then I guess you probably come to a bit of a crossroads if you stay in private practice, where you're like, do I want to progress and kind of take more of the partnership type role, which kind of obviously brings rewards, but it's maybe a focus a bit away from doing the work kind of day to day, or is your love for doing the work, getting really heavily involved in what the client needs, doing the day-to-day advice kind of thing. And I guess for me, part of the reason for going in-house was I do like doing that. I get more enjoyment from that kind of relationship. So it felt like a good time to make the move.
Do many people go from law school straight into in-house work? Or would you say most people that do end up moving in-house kind of, I guess, cut their teeth, or whatever you call it, in private practice?
There's probably more do now.
There's more training contracts in-house. When I qualified, and I know earlier I didn't like the way I described myself. I made it sound like I was a dinosaur, but I wasn't trying to say that I was more experienced. I was making a good joke about my age. It probably didn't come across, but
I just didn't want to sell you how old I was.
Yeah. I know. God, that's scary. But there certainly was no training contracts when I qualified in-house. Now I know, like, the BBC does training contracts. So you need bigger legal teams to do it, though. You need the, like Megan said, you need that structure. You need the discipline, the education, the law firms, the big multi-billion pound organisations full of knowledge and tech. So to mirror that, only the biggest companies can do it, I think. But there are some opportunities, aren't there?
Yeah, and there's different routes in now as well compared to, so we all came from like a postgraduate, and then into a training contract, but now there's other routes into law. So some people go in as apprentices, school leavers. So we've had our own apprentice join the team as well, and other companies are doing that as well. So the idea is that they'll come in and train with the team, and then pass their exams hopefully, and then eventually end up being a lawyer as well. So which is great, because it's attracting people from other backgrounds who might not traditionally have gone into law as well. Yeah.
And what does that apprenticeship route look like? You mentioned you got an apprentice in the team fairly recently. Is it like doing the degree alongside getting experience with yourselves? You do it.
It's in two phases. I think you can do it in different routes. It's really important to us as a team. Social mobility is big amongst our community anyway, and it's particularly important to me to show that you can become a solicitor without having to incur literally tens of thousands of debt, isn't it, to go through? God knows what it is these days, but and our own apprentice, Ella, has been with us 2.5 years. 2.5 years, I think it is. Who's done fantastically well. She's done a paralegal apprenticeship, which is a 2-year course, and then she's gone on to a non-graduate solicitor apprentice. So in 4 years' time, she'll be a solicitor. So 6 years, all in all. I think you do get a degree alongside that as well. But it seems like a fantastic way of getting that qualification. You're not in debt, or you're not in as much debt as you would be. You're working on the job. You'll come out with a fantastic education, and also loads of life and work experience still at a very young age. And we're looking forward to see how she progresses. Yeah,
because law can be one of those tough careers to break into. I guess historically quite a traditional, would you say?
Yeah, I'm sure we've all had different. When I went for training contract interviews in London, I was recommended to go for elocution lessons, and that was very off-putting for me. Someone at a firm that I won't name said you'd really benefit from elocution lessons, and I found that quite jarring, quite difficult. As you can tell, I took them up on their advice, and I'm not. But no, I think it's quite a hard industry to get into.
It can be a brutal process. It can, and really competitive. And I don't envy kind of people who are out there having just kind of done law degrees who are looking for training contracts. But yeah, and I think that probably gets more and more challenging all the time. But then the upshot is actually there are other routes now, and that's really, really encouraging. And I think also probably recruitment at law firms has probably kind of softened in terms of, they're looking for probably more well-rounded individuals rather than just, what school did you go to, what grades did you get, what degree have you got, and from which university, and and also perhaps back in the day, who did you know?
Yeah. And they're realising that diversity brings different ideas, like I say, aren't they? That it can benefit them, different approaches, different backgrounds, and that's Autotrader is well ahead in terms of diversity and stuff. But we're seeing a lot of other law firms that we deal with, they've got good social mobility programs, so it is changing.
Yeah.
Bro. So now you're all at Autotrader. Is there a day-to-day? I was going to ask you what your day-to-day looks like, but I'm sure you'll probably struggle to explain like a usual day-to-day. But roughly speaking, if you had to pick a day from this week, what does a day-to-day as an in-house lawyer at Autotrader?
It can be like corporate A&E, can't it? Sometimes it's like sort of.
It's a good word.
It can be, but that's not every day. Some days there's a lot of panic, a lot of feeling of urgency. I don't think there's just a day-to-day, is there? We don't often know what we're going to do.
Yeah, I think there's no days the same. I think typically we have quite a lot of meetings or calls, which I think we all know is an Autotrader thing. So that might be, bringing us in early on a new product development and getting our views on what legal issues might come up, or we might have calls with partners that we're working with, other sides where we're negotiating a contract, or we might be doing some drafting of a contract or terms and conditions for a new product. There's a massive range of stuff, and every day is different, which is one of the things that's great about the job.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it a good thing?
Yes.
Definitely a good thing. You're never bored. Like I say, some days you don't know what you're going to encounter. What you do encounter is varied. Like, so lots of meetings. We spend a lot of our time gaining information, don't we? Trying to we're only as good as the information we have from the business, so we're trying to constantly understand what's happening. It moves so quickly, as you know, so that's a big part of it. So a lot of meetings, a lot of chat, a lot of face-to-face stuff.
Yeah, and we've always kind of said it's I guess it's the nature of Autotrader, right, that it's not a business that kind of stays still. We don't plan loads in advance and absolutely stick to the plan. It's a very kind of agile business, and as things in the industry might be changing, and all sorts of things, they're flexible, and we look at, right, well, actually we're going to move forward with this now, and we're going to change this. So if you were a person that didn't that liked to come in and have quite a structured day to day, and have perhaps your plan set out for like the next week of what you've got to do every day, then Autotrader probably is not the place for you, because there's as much as people do try and bring us in early, there are always last minute things going on. There's always a bit of a change of direction, or we've explored this, we've gone down this route, and actually we've decided that perhaps taking it this way is going to be much better. So you have to be, what I'm saying is you have to be flexible, you have to be adaptable here, you have to be able to okay, let's drop that, we're on to this now. And I guess we must like that approach, otherwise we wouldn't still be here. It wasn't
where I liked it, actually. It's my definition of stress, but it is enjoyable, isn't it? We're sort of, I don't think anybody in the team, we're all quite adaptable. We sort of, like, I heard the phrase fail fast a lot when I started. Let's just fail fast. And then I was like, do we need to fail fast? Can we just carry on, persist? But no, you get used to it quite quickly. And and now we see the benefits of how the business works, and we sort of supplement that and work alongside it, and I think it works well, doesn't it?
Yeah, failing fast is an interesting one, because it's a very software development term, isn't it? Like, let's get to the minimum, MVP, and get all that stuff out of the way, all the risk out of the way. But in legal and law, failing isn't.
Doing anything fast is difficult.
Doing it fast, and also having to fail on some things. I know. I can see why that would have been a bit of friction when you joined.
No, it's good. It keeps us on our toes.
Yeah, good. So the rest of the team, then, you mentioned that it's obviously grown a lot. You've got an apprentice now. Yeah. So what does the makeup of the legal team look like at AT?
So we've got, I don't know if I'm okay to use it, we're quite top heavy, aren't we, in terms of seniority. The three of us, as I said, I don't really like the way I introduced myself earlier. If I could change that, I will. I didn't like it. It sounded like I was going, oh, look at me, I'm 20 odd years, but I wasn't saying that. But we are all, between us, it's almost 60 years experience. And then we've got, so we are the three senior lawyers, and then we brought in Ella, who is our apprentice, who's been with us 2.5 years now, just because of the sheer workload and the constant, there's so much, some stuff's changing all the time. We want to try and focus on more strategic issues, so we brought in a more junior lawyer who's still very experienced. Amy is around 6 years qualified. She's been with us for just over 9 months now, actually, so she's fitting really well. So we've got a really good team, a really approachable team is what we try and strive towards. As I said, we don't want people sitting in a corner, not engaging with us, afraid of us. Not that there's any reason to be afraid of us, but want people to come and feel as though they can just say anything they want, and we'll try and advise them. We'll ask further questions. We want it to be a positive experience, don't we, to deal with legal. I've worked in places where there's all kinds of offensive terms for the legal department, but where it was just they'd sit in an ivory tower in a different part of the office with like a bit literally behind a door. You'd have to knock on it and approach them. You'd feel really out of place, and that's something that it doesn't apply at Autotrader anyway. But it's certainly not something that we want as a legal team. Yeah. So five lawyers, but four of us. Well, we're all part time because our apprentice is study, so none of us are full time, which is probably unusual for a legal team of.
And we're pretty compact for a FTSE 100 company.
Very lean,
We are a compact team,
yeah.
Right? So I guess that makes it busy.
Yeah. What do the teams look like at other kind of big businesses?
I suppose it did. A lot of other FTSE 100 companies, some of them are banks with huge legal teams. Yeah. Like Megan said, I think we're definitely on the leaner side for the size of the company and the complexities that we face as a business. You probably will find some teams out there with smaller legal teams, but I'd say we're definitely in that smaller bracket. It works for us because we communicate very closely. I believe that we can all speak quite freely, so we do help each other a lot in that respect, and communication is really good. I think you can. When you get a massive legal team, you can struggle with that. Yeah. I believe that we've all got a really good handle on how the business operates, the key people, not just key people, anybody. We can work with anybody in this business. So what everyone does, and how we interact with them, I think we're all on the same page on that. And when people come and deal with us, they will get a similar feel and a similar level of advice, no matter who they speak to in the team.
Yeah. And who are those main stakeholders then that you're kind of working with most frequently across the business?
Anyone and everyone, really. Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah. Well, I guess there's there's our kind of ART who are kind of senior management, and we're lucky that they're super approachable. They will come to us with queries. We can approach them and ask them anything we need to. But also, there's just the business is varied. So there's our core marketplace, and we obviously have to kind of support our teams with that. There's data is a massive thing at Autotrader. So we work very closely with those teams. There's finance and leasing, the OEMs. I'm going to forget someone. We do a lot of marketing, supporting our marketing team with kind of new activations and stuff. So there aren't 2 or 3 or 5 kind of key stakeholders that we're kind of constantly dealing with, because it completely changes depending on the work and the projects and everything. But then, of course, it's really helpful, as you were saying earlier, to have those kind of contacts all around the business, because we get to know what's going on in different areas, and that really helps kind of bring together a picture of where we are at the moment, where we're going forward, what we have to think about when we're looking at something over here, what's going on over here. So I don't know, have I covered everything there?
No, you could. Yeah, you're right. It's everyone and anybody. We're not. It can be somebody who's brand new on day one. We want them to feel like they can come and speak to us. To Nathan, anybody will come and approach us, and they do approach us. There's a lot of things going on, and we have to sort of. That's one of the challenges of the job, is, which I think hopefully we're good at, is pivoting and prioritising on short notice. So I've got a Miro board of what I think we're working on, which isn't exhaustive, and there's probably around 400 different things on that right now, different levels of severity, different levels of importance, but just trying to work out, they all need to get done, and we need to do them. And that's probably not covering many things that are on Michelle and Megan's list and Amy and Ella's list, but we have to pivot, and what enables us to do that and make the right choices is by having the contacts that you've just referred to, like knowing what's going on in the business, knowing what's important right now. So yeah, that's one of the challenges that we face, but we're trying to achieve that by getting on with people, basically.
Yeah.
And having like clear communication channels.
Yeah. And when that work comes in, do you all have kind of almost like specialisms or area of the business that you look after, I guess, a business partner, or is it just a case of like you're all willing to take on whatever comes in and you'll just do it according to capacities? Or
I'm just really good at delegating. That's all I do. No, I'm not even good at that actually. But, no, we don't. I think we try and
Apart
move.
from special mention to Michelle, who's our
sorry, absolutely.
data expert.
Yeah, that's
yeah. We've been in some meetings before, Michelle.
Yeah, absolutely. Subject matter expert. That's a very good shout actually. Like Meg said, we are all contract, IP, commercial lawyers. Michelle, when I joined Autotrader, I had a massive panic at the amount of personal data issues going on. So I was desperate for a personal data lawyer, which was Michelle, who's come in and done a fantastic job. But other than that, I think we don't divide the business up between. So I think we naturally fall into certain areas, don't we?
Yeah.
So
sometimes it makes sense because one of us have done a lot in something.
Yeah,
and it just
you'll have all
sense.
the context and
you've got the context, the background, and the people start approaching you because they know you and they know you that you've done that before. So sometimes there is a bit of that, but generally we'll deal with anything.
I mean, recently you've been involved with the rate event. Meg's been involved in finance, but that's not to say that can't change immediately. And we've all got an awareness of what's going on to enable us to do it, but it makes it more efficient sometimes, as Michelle says, if someone else can pick up where they left off. But we don't really. I think it helps us not to be stuck in a particular. I've worked in places where you have like a marketing lawyer or a product lawyer, and I don't want us to be like that. I think it's better that we have a broader understanding of the whole business.
Yeah, keep it agile between you all. Yeah. And a lot of the people you'll work with won't have had any experience with lawyers or the law or anything like that in the past, most likely. How do you make it accessible to them? Because it's quite a complex and can be quite a confusing thing to wrangle with, isn't it? So how do you approach that as a team?
I think it's something that's really important, as you say, because obviously if you're not communicating in a way that's clear, you lose people and they're not listening to you, they don't approach you, messages get lost in translation. But it's difficult. I think like obviously mentioned my data protection specialism. Data protection is very complex and it can be a bit of a difficult area to discuss in meetings, and I try my best to be clear and keep it. Sometimes it's about giving people the information that they need high level. Sometimes I can see people drifting off when I'm mentioning data controllers and data processes. Won't mention any names.
I'm sure they're not. Just resting their eyes.
We're aware of it and we're trying our best to be clear and also being, I think as we mentioned before, we would see ourselves as being commercial as well. So we're not just here, we're aware of the law, but sometimes it's about, actually looking at what's the right commercial decision or route for the business, and that's what we'll advise on. So we're backing up with what we know is the position of the law, but actually we're putting in a more commercial language and helping the people we're working with to actually get what they want and where they want to be.
Cool.
And I mean, it Autotrader is like a hugely kind of collaborative type business, isn't it? And I think legal has to be part of that. We have to be joined in on those collaborative conversations, and I think whereas perhaps in private practice it might be difficult to get in those rooms, here it is a little bit easier to do that, and someone might approach us with a question, or it might be in an email chain or whatever, and a lot of time, rather than do a great big lengthy email back of, well, this is the legal position, but have you thought about this commercial issue or this reputational issue or this, business risk or whatever, sometimes it's easier just to say, just let's get in a meeting room, because Autotrader people love that anyway. But it's so helpful, isn't it? Because then, you can discuss it and kind of talk around the legal points in a bit more kind of, relaxed language. And as you say, just kind of focus on the kind of high level, what this means, rather than, the experience to get to that kind of decision. And also talk about because I think we talk quite a lot, don't we, between ourselves, of it's not just a case of can we do this, or what's, can we push this from a legal perspective to do this or to do this, or but a lot of time we have to think about, we're a FTSE 100 company, we're really hot on values here. That's really important to us. So it's so much more about what is the legal answer. It's about, should we be doing this? What's, is it the right thing to do? What's our accountability here? What's our responsibility as a company of this kind of size in the industry? And perhaps that's something that's better kind of thrashed around a bit in a meeting room. And for the people are super bright here. They might not be lawyers, and we bring that expertise, but they bring insight from the tech world, the product world, finance, all that sort of stuff. So actually getting in a room and having people challenge you, or you challenge them back, you end up finding a really good, for the most part, kind of solution to the problem, or or agreed way forward, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and that's a good point actually, because I think even though the law is complex and we're bringing that, actually Autotrader as a business is really complex.
I was going to say that,
and we're relying on the people that we're working with to explain that.
Yeah.
Patiently to us while we ask questions, because we've got to understand what's going on in the business so we can advise properly. And so that's a challenge for us. The other way around,
do you enjoy do you enjoy those, like getting into the tech and the finance or whatever it may be? Do you enjoy trying to like immerse yourself in that and learn about it and what the other teams are doing?
I do. I think you can't do our job without it. I don't think it's a really good point. You asked about how we explain the law. 95% of the people here don't want to know about the law. They want to know whether what they're doing is okay or how they can do it better. So that for that to happen, we need to understand what they're on about, and that's I spend a lot of time listening. And they're not only are they bright, they're really patient, really sort of everyone. It's an amazing thing that of a company of such a size, I don't think I've ever had anybody in 7 years sort of get irritated by me asking further questions. Everyone's really sort of course, like people love answering your questions, which is a really unique thing. Yeah.
And are there any top tips for those teams that might work with you, like working well with Legal 101? Like what's the handbook look like from your perspective?
Gosh, where do we start? I mean, don't see us as a hurdle or something that has to go. You have to go through it. Try and see us as something which as a team will help you. We'll try and facilitate what you want to do. We want to say yes to everything. That's true. We want to do the right thing, but we do want to say yes to everything. The earlier that we are looped in, I think Megan mentioned it earlier, the sooner that we're involved and the closer we are to the project or the team, the more value we can add, the more prep we can do alongside to sort of smooth the path. So that's certainly one of the headlines is early, coming to us early and coming to us in a way that we're not sort of a necessary evil. We want people to just sort of see us as adding value and have a positive experience with us. We do talk about early engagement a lot, don't we, internally?
And in those early meetings, like we don't have to input necessarily. Sometimes it's just sitting and, as you say, like listening and finding out what's going on, what's happening, when it's happening, what the possible kind of paths are, and we can be thinking, okay, right, well that's we'll probably get involved at this stage. We'll probably have to do these documents or these changes. We might have to research this thing. But that I suppose that's the magic element for every lawyer really is getting involved early. But I guess in order to do that, it's the relationship point again, isn't it? Because if you've built good relationships with people and they see the value that you add by being involved early, and they say, all right, on the last project actually we got legal involved early, it was super smooth because we knew when we'd had to involve them to actually kind of do some kind of practical work. We kept them up to date with any changes and it worked really well. Nothing was kind of held up, there were no barriers, then they'll do that again. So that kind of that relationship thing it builds trust and it builds their confidence in us. And it, and also that thing of we can always go back and ask further questions. So that's super valuable.
Yeah, I think the worst part of the job is coming into something that's either already live or already just about to go live. A lot of time and investment's gone into it, and you spot something that we don't mind taking risks. I will clarify, we're not risk averse. We sort of tolerate risk, but if it's something you think, wow, that's not ideal, that's the worst part of the job, because you have to unpick it and you have to have some challenging conversations. But it doesn't happen very often, does it?
No. And I guess we also sometimes see kind of legal teams on the other side of negotiations or whatever, and it's really hard to get them on the phone to discuss anything. And I guess it's a bit alien for us because we're, it's a very Autotrader thing, but actually as our team, we're happy to jump on calls with the other side. Their lawyers don't have to be on there because, we'll just sit and listen to what's going on, because then it helps everything go smoothly. And that actually, if we think there are going to be blockers and problems in getting something agreed with a partner or a supplier or someone we're working with, then we'd rather just all get on the phone, thrash it out, find out what the issues are. And often it's, we can come to commercial agreements, pretty easily. And then, then the contract process is a lot smoother, right? Because we've already agreed the principles. But yeah, kind of that, no one thanks you for a massive, great big email ping pong. But I guess sometimes you're working with teams that's kind of maybe because of the makeup of their legal team or the bureaucracy involved or whatever, that are not quite as agile, and that can be frustrating.
And are there instances where you need like specialist knowledge from outside, or traders you have to work with other law firms? And I guess how do you recognise that you might need that, and who do you reach out to? How does that process work?
I think it goes back to knowing where our skills lie. We know where our limitations are. There's huge consequences for getting wrong what we do. So we've built up. We all have contacts in the industry. We use external firms in certain areas where we believe we don't have the knowledge that's needed. So competition law is a big one for us. Employment law, litigation. So when things get to a certain level of dispute, we would take external advice. Just around knowing where your limitations lie, and we assess other providers, other law firms, see who gets us, who gets our values, who is. I mean, often we take the legal knowledge, legal skills as read. We assume that these firms are fantastic, and it's around who understands us as a business, who can relay legal issues like we can, and who we're not looking for law firms to go out and enter into a big battle on Autotrader's behalf and flex the muscles. We don't want that. We want to be seen to be collaborative, to be when we've got we want to be partners with people. We're not looking for a scrap. So we want law firms who recognise that and get our tone of voice. But there's other areas that we use as well, isn't there? I'm trying to think. Corporate would be another one. Corporate acquisitions. But I think we're all quite honest about where our specialisms lie.
That's really interesting. So I said we had some quick fire questions. Good. I've got quick fire questions. Then one more question for you. What, from your perspectives, is the most overused legal buzzword that you come across?
Gosh. Well, we try and avoid them, so that's why. That's one bit. We do. I'm quite proud. In law firms, you'd hear a lot of like caveat emptor and lots of like Latin stuff. Legal buzzwords.
I know you get called out on them here. Like if you like put one in happen to kind of fall back into old ways and put one in an email or a contract. You're like, what is that? What's that mean? Why are we saying that? Like, sorry, it won't do that again.
Notwithstanding.
Sometimes they're useful though.
I like notwithstanding.
You get taught for years to use these terms, and you get someone like Autotrader and I was like, everyone, stop using that word. You get called out on it, which is good. You get challenged on it.
Well, that's a bit like as a commercial lawyer, you also get trained in making things perfect. Like, you have your document should be absolutely perfect, formatting wise, in terms of all your kind of grammar and punctuation and correct usage of words and cross references and stuff. But in-house, people don't thank you for making things absolutely perfect. Sometimes you just, you have to unlearn some of the stuff, as you were saying, and just go, does it work? Does it work? As long as things aren't clearly wrong or it, would impact the contract, if it was challenged, we can let it slide a bit more now. But yeah, it's kind of weird because you have to.
There will be words that will come to mind this afternoon. There'll be something. I'll get back to my desk and I'll
get a message from you with some crazy legal word.
That really annoys me. Yeah.
The thing is, though, if you asked the question about Autotraderisms, there's loads of them. We could rattle off loads of favourite kind of abbreviations and whatnot.
Put the listeners to sleep with those. So next one, you've had a long day, lots of meetings. Coffee or tea, and what biscuit are you going to have with your coffee or tea, each of you?
At the end of the day, no caffeine for me, I'm afraid. At the end of the day, no, it's more like to be a beer, sadly, but without a biscuit.
A beer and a biscuit.
But coffee would be my drink of choice normally.
Yeah.
I'm a big tea drinker, so it's got to be Yorkshire tea. And maybe like a chocolate digestive.
Good shout.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm more a coffee in the morning person, but I'm definitely coffee over tea. I like a big kind of OT cookie, chunky thing to dip in.
Good choices. Not sure about the beer and the biscuit.
No, beer without biscuit.
Beer without biscuit. Okay, that's good.
Yeah,
clarification. Yeah. Favorite legal movie or TV show?
Oh, good. I've got a few.
Yeah. Well, I used to watch Ally McBeal. Possibly that's why I went into law. But it's nothing like that. So there was no dancing babies.
Yourselves?
I also watched Ally McBeal. It must have been like a time thing. Yeah, loved that. And then later on, Suits.
Yeah,
although the annoying question is if anyone's like, is it like Suits? No, it's nothing like Suits. It's not as glamorous as that. We don't get to switch around.
I wish. Mine was LA Law and then Ally McBeal and then Suits. So LA Law was like an 80s big suits, big power suits, all about social injustice and it was very much Blair Underwood was in it. Does anyone remember Blair Underwood? Good actor. I know we've talked about age already, but
I mean, I was just thinking the younger people.
But that's what got me into
Ally
law.
McBeal? You probably don't know.
Heard of it.
Get watching LA Law. It's what got me into law, and then that was a good show. Films wise, what good legal films are? The Firm I quite liked with Tom Cruise.
I
wouldn't say it's inspirational, but it was quite good.
I mean, I think like those great big courtroom scenes are always amazing. Like, I want to do that. But then the reality is nothing like that.
Yeah. That's a very good point, actually.
Cool. Right, we'll round off the quick fire questions there. Fairly quick fire. The last one I thought would be a nice one to end on. If anyone's listening and wants to learn more about working in legal and specifically maybe working in-house, is there any way you'd point them towards resources wise, or anything they could read, listen to, watch?
I'd probably say come and chat to us if anybody's listening. Reach out to us. We've all got, varied careers. There's not like is there a resource that I would go to? I'd point anyone to.
I'm not sure. I think you're right. It's probably talking.
A chat.
If you can
talk to other lawyers.
To someone. If you're lucky enough to have a contact or reach out to us. But they probably give you the best overview of what life is like and I can't think of any other resources.
I mean, surely there must be some good content out there now that like none of that was available to us kind of back in the day.
Podcasters
I bet there's some
and things
brilliant
like that,
podcasts and and there's also kind of good podcasts that kind of cover like basics of law as well. So I bet there's loads out there if people were looking for it. It's just
we'll ask our apprentice. She's got a finger close to the pulse, so we'll ask her what she would recommend. I know she follows various sort of aspiring lawyers on Instagram and things like that. She'd recommended to me a while ago. Their names escape me, sadly.
We'll put them in the show notes.
I'm fine.
Cool, perfect. Well, thank you all very much.
Thank you very much.
Sharing a bit about your roles. For the listeners, don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Spotify. And we will catch you again next week. Thanks all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.